Thank you everyone for being here today. I'm Joe O'Neill from Cognitos, and today we have a really exciting session called Trusted AI, what AI solutions can do to earn enterprise trust. So we're really excited to have you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Really appreciate that you're giving us some time and really spend some time with us to understand trusted AI, what really mean by that. So I'm Neeraj Mathur, Vice President of Solution Engineering at Cognitos. I come from quite a deep intelligent automation background, particularly for last 5, 6 years software engineering background prior to that, and recently have co-authored a book on intelligent automation, which is being used in some of the universities also for really teaching intelligent automation from a management perspective. Peter, to you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Cook, the VP of Customer Experience at Cognitos. In this, I've been immersed with supporting, guiding customers with various advanced technologies since the year 2000. And as part of this, I want to enable these frictionless user experiences for all AI users in all roles. When I work closely with customers, we put together these customer-centric journeys to ensure really positive business outcomes. So with that, let's get started, Neeraj.
Absolutely. So the way we have organized this webinar for you all, there are a couple of assumptions. We know we have customers here, practitioners here, other vendors here, and we want to make sure that there is a very clear message in terms of community because we all are working towards, in some form, the AI deployment in organizations. The focus is really about trust. So why there is actually a lot of push and pull in terms of the sentiments around, hey, do I trust it? Do I not trust it? There's a lot of demand. There's a lot of hype today about adoption of AI, but we are not seeing the level of adoption which you would imagine with that sort of a hype. So we'll talk about briefly on that sort of a demand versus deployment, why that's not the case. We'll go into the next part, which is what are the obstacles which we have seen and our customers are also talking about, what we are hearing in the industry in terms of the challenges of these adoptions. And then finally, what has to happen, right? Whether you are a consumer or a customer or a practitioner, what are the things you should be looking out for? If you are a vendor or you're building some solutions, what are the things you need to really support? Right. So that's the kind of message which we really trying to focus on it here. So let's dive in, Peter, with this.
Great. So here are some notable quotes from two well-known technology leaders. And here we have Mark Zuckerberg saying, the biggest risk is not taking any risk. And with Bill Gates saying, don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. So we know that the interest, demand, the possibilities with AI are just too significant to ignore. So one simply can't afford to wait and see in this highly competitive environment. So now we're going to poll the audience and we're going to understand your progress on your own AI journey.
Yeah, let's start with that. So while you all are receiving the poll and looking at about your journey, there are a few things which we would like to really highlight, and this is based on the recent survey done by EY, that since the hype of generative AI, there are 54% of employees have reported that within their organization that they're actually using generative AI in some form or not. But it is very important to keep in mind that the AI is not just generative AI. There is a really long journey which AI solutions have taken. I'm talking about predictive analytics, which it's used in banking for a couple of decades now, right? We all are familiar with so much of our day-to-day AI application. You go to Amazon, it uses the recommendation engine to recommend you what you may be actually interested in. We've been using that for a while. Alexa, many other options out there, right? So there's certain things which have become part of our daily life without us realizing it. So it's actually out there. The concern which we are really talking about is mainly on the business sensitive critical applications, right? The examples which I gave you are more or less really harmless. or if there is some error or some issue with there, it would not really matter that much. The other point to also understand on this slide is that most of these capabilities, whether you look at it from ChatGPT or chatbot or virtual assistants or RPA or was, it's done in a very limited way at this point of time, right? Like generative AI chatbots, people are using only one application over there. They may not be using variety of different combinations out there. So that's the one part of conversation today is why so, right? And that's what we would like to also hear from you, looking at the poll answers as well. So, Joe, maybe we can see what the results are.
Yeah, what we're seeing here, Neeraj, is most of the audience is really in pilot and exploration, and that's we're hitting the perfect audience with the purpose of this webinar. Because for this audience, there are many different applications of AI. Each has its own inherent risk, and as part of this, we've really applied rules and questions that are going to guide you, regardless of the application of AI that you're seeking.
Yeah.
And for those that are, say, most comfortable with AI today, it's like these business users that believe that they're utilizing AI. It's typically in that situation where they're making use of a single AI application that serves a very specific purpose.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised by the results of the poll here, because if you look at it, the US Census Bureau earlier this year said pretty much in this line that there's hardly around 5.4% of enterprises are having AI in the production. So having most of the folks here also talking about exploration and being in the pilot stage does actually reflect that almost 90% of the people actually have mentioned that. So this is great. I think we are on the right track in terms of what we are talking about over here. So let's get into. So we have set the stage about there is a demand, there are concerns in terms of why there are not enough deployment. But now where those concerns really address, it's actually pretty much everyone. It's not just only at C-suite or certain businesses areas or some verticals or some horizontal departments. It's actually across the board where this concern is. As a matter of fact, the last year when Pew Research actually published this survey, there is in fact an increase in the concern since 2021, and even during the adoption of generative AI as well. So as you can see, there is a intention to have the adoption, but there is also a sentiment around the concerns as well. So we'll dive into this. But Peter, I'm sure you have seen this also firsthand, speaking with many customers as well. Like, what's the thought there?
Yeah, I'm also thinking that, as people think about the scale of deploying AI and it being new, that those executive sponsors for programs for innovation and process improvement, they're taking an inherent risk. And so they need to guide, measure that risk. And so we must really inform and are doing so in this webinar of those areas to enable one to guide, measure that risk so that they can, with confidence, proceed down this AI journey and distribute that throughout their enterprise.
Yeah. So now we know concerns are genuine, they are real. So what are these obstacles on this? And before we jump into this, I just want to call out, if you have any question, post that online. I'm sure Joe or others would actually help us go through that as well. So just want to make sure that we address those as well as they arrive. All right, so what's the obstacle here? The core obstacle here, it's fear of AI. It's about not having enough control or understanding, and also the speed of the change which is happening around us, that develops actually a lot of fear about, I don't understand what this AI is all about. I don't understand the kind of rapid changes happening. I'm not even able to really catch up on that. I have even concerns about how AI arrived to some sort of a conclusion on this as well. So we all start seeing this as a alien, But what we really need to start having a proper adoption is a control on this, right? How AI is actually working, how these models are working, how they are actually presenting the results to us. Can I actually guide them? Can I actually verify the results? All that sort of thing. And we'll talk more about that in detail as well. And that's exactly the realm of trusted AI, that once you build that certain control, you start developing the trust. Maybe not on day one, but when you start seeing that it's actually giving you the result which you are expecting, you're able to verify over the period of time. Naturally, organically start building the trust on that as well. So, Peter,
Sure.
this is a very common thing which we see, and I'm sure you have been seeing actually this with customers as well. What are they saying?
Yeah. Well, why do we feel threatened? Well, we trust in what we fully understand, and we trust things like a hammer. We understand how it works, that we understand we have control of the direction, the speed, velocity. When I do this, this happens. And it's areas of, with AI entering a prompt, and then where does it go? What data is it making use of? All those attributes are a black box to so many. So that is why really AI is an area that can people feel threatened to embrace it.
Yeah. And I'm seeing the results as they are coming in from the poll. And it's very interesting to see almost 50% actually, okay, they are concerned about data and governance. Roughly 25% visibility of this. There's a good split in the fear of hallucination and knowing where to start, which is very much similar to what we have been seeing. Maybe I have personally heard more on terms of knowing where to start, which leads to, okay, now I know where to start, or maybe I'm exploring some initial pilot cases, but what about my data? What about these models? How would I know that they're doing the way what they're supposed to do? So that's the data aspect, the visibility of the AI models as well. And finally, the hallucination, of course, comes into this as well. Great. So let's dive into, I think clearly most of you on the audience have highlighted their concern. What we are also hearing from our customers in the industry, Peter and I talked to a lot of people in the industry also outside of our customers, and there is a very consistent theme here from an implementation point of view is AI is a black box for me, right? I have no idea how these models really work, how they arrive to the decision they come up with. They are probabilistic in the nature, so I'm not sure if that's actually the right way for me. They are the trained or pre-trained on some kind of data, and I have no idea where that data is coming from. So this black box nature is where generally the conversation starts. Once you get into, hey, where do I start? What are the use cases and pass through as well? Peter, any insight on that as well? And
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with what you mentioned, and these being definitely those inhibitors and clarification, guidance, visibility is all about making one comfortable to make the next step forward.
Yeah. And that leads to really the data related concerns here, which I'm sure most of the people on the call on this webinar, those who are listening right now and in future, would relate to is the primary concern is how these models are trained, where that data has come from. If it is using my data or it's using someone else's data, how that is actually really going to be protected, even if I'm doing some in-house or if I'm using some large language models. So a lot of concerns from not just only from the PII perspective, but overall sensitive data, security, customer data, all sort of data there as well.
Yeah, another element here, Niraj, is when are humans in the loop on this process, and and overall, then we they want to ensure that their business practice SMEs can always steer the ship.
Yeah. And the common theme is that business leaders are actually asking these questions now, right? Which is, I personally like it, that they know that they have to adopt, which is the original point which we had from Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, right? That you just can't have an option or choice of leaving behind here. You need to really make a progress. So it's not just only C-suite or business leaders, even individual staff members, business users have started exploring these as well. What will work for their organization, right? Which leads to, it all started from the generative AI aspect when people started talking more about hallucinations, but it doesn't limit there, right? But last couple of years, we have all seen the kind of growth in terms of different kinds of technologies, models, the AI systems, platforms which are coming. But one thing which is not really solved is the hallucination, because inherently the AI machine learning models, they are probabilistic in nature, right? And that's what we are going to talk about, what is really needed from a trusted AI perspective on that as well. So let's dive in. Peter, I'll hand it over to you this from a functional point of view here.
Absolutely. So in terms of where to start, identify those business processes that are going to yield the most value. And so for those in the audience that are familiar with automation in general, those same type of processes are going to apply. But when you add AI, you're going to be able to do even more. So as you think about this, it's commonly referred to as a straight-through processing rate or a glide path. So with the addition with current technologies, these processes to some extent can be automated. And you're likely experiencing, say, a straight-through processing rate of 60%, maybe 70%. But with that addition of AI, it's possible to obtain levels never seen before. Going in 6-12 months to 80%, 90%, 95%. And when you look at this at scale, if you're not doing this and your competitors are, let's just take the example of you have 100 people that are staffing your back office, and your competitor though has now applied AI to these same types of processes. And with that, as their straight-through processing rate goes up, they're able to fund things like R&D in product and engineering, fund customer success, or customer service, because that straight-through processing rate is maybe 90%, and with your current IDP solution, you're getting 70%. So you're having to staff way more, and they're getting that return on that investment like never before. So think about those same types of high volume type of processes that are critical to the business. And with AI, these also processes are able to expand from just their former original definition. That's incredible, right? So that's how this type of glide path continually improves. And so, these same types of processes can really be automated now in the future.
Yeah. And when I talk to folks in industry, not just only customers, but the theme about I don't know where to start is so common. Is like to your point, Peter, about some of the examples. We all know some industries are, from a digital transformation point of view, are lagging than the others. There's a lot of catch up which needs to be done as well. And the great thing about this is they are the one actually are asking us about where do I start? Because, I think we just can't live without digital transformation, live without adopting AI, which is one of the crucial component of any transformation I'm doing. So whether you look at from a manufacturing plant, insurance areas, transportation, I mean, these are the areas where there's so much of work which needs to be done, and the C-suite started asking exactly this question: tell us where to start. We see you as AI consultants. Show us where the value is, and do this. So it's great that we are seeing that those kind of conversation happening. So that would really help in alleviating these obstacles which we are talking about here. That leads to now the organization point of view. There's one common theme, particularly in last couple of years, not so much before that. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about chief AI officer role building up, but not in many organizations. We're seeing a trend here that all the automation space previously started from finance. It does start from finance as well, but when it goes into more complex AI space, it leads into the CIO role or chief AI officer role, that sort of thing, which is really a good sign from an adoption point of view, because that's where the complexity really plays the important role, so that they can actually start aligning it with the business workflows also on it. So just to quickly recap, I'm sure there are some questions. If there are, we can take it now. But from an obstacles point of view, what Peter and I are really talking about here is where to start, a black box nature of AI, the data concerns which we are talking about, the hallucinations which we are talking about, and that leads to what really needs to happen to solve it, right? So let's dive into the trusted AI aspect of it. Peter, if you want to.
Yeah. So, think about these are the questions that you should ask any vendor as it pertains to implementing and applying AI to your business. So, and that is, can your solution prevent hallucinations from occurring? And if so, to what extent? And next, understanding, can members of my team uncover how, really seeing how and why AI performed that given task? So understanding and having a record of exactly what the machine did. And so incredibly important for that visibility, for that comfort. We talked about the hammer example. And one should be able to see that, and not just one, but we're talking about a business user, not necessarily a developer. A business practice SME should be able to apply AI to their business processes and be able to see exactly what happened under the hood.
Yep, awesome. So one thing I like to add here is whether you are a consumer of AI or a customer of AI platform, or if you are an AI vendor, these are really the questions which we need to address in terms of really making sure that we are building a trusted AI platform. We are building a solution which is used in a trusted way. So for a customer, you got to ask these things from your vendor. For the vendors, you really need to be prepared to answer these questions to make sure that your customer actually trusts you and you are providing the right solution on that. But how do we really do this, right? Because what would happen is I've only talked about from customer and vendor point of view, but over the period of time, which we have seen in last few months, globally, actually, not just only in Europe and US, a lot of regulations have started popping up. They're actually becoming much more widespread also in terms of AI adoption. This is actually the kind of questions we will eventually be even asked from a regulation point of view, though they are not asked today in all the settings, right? So what exactly we need to do to really make it all happen from a trusted AI point of view, right? So let's dive in. So the first question was, right, how do I even prevent the hallucination, right? We all are concerned about this. And there is an inherent nature of, first thing we need to understand is AI models are probabilistic in the nature, right? They are not logical. What exactly that would lead to is hey, it's probabilistic. They are developed in a way to really give you the best choice available from a probability point of view, but that may not be the right choice for the given situation. Even if you look at from a generative AI perspective, or taking some example on my left on this, where agentic AI or things like ChatGPT, which we all use on a regular basis, you generate a code, use an agent, generate a code in Python, which is actually generating a logic. But then the layer on top of that, which is interpreting that or generating that, can still hallucinate, right? We have been hearing a lot of stories about How long does it take to even make the Python code, generated Python code accurate, right? That's the hallucination aspect of it. But let's say if that's actually working, but the layer on top of that, which is really probabilistic, it is still actually can hallucinate, right? And that's why the agentic AI solutions would continue to support a very limited aspect because they tend to still hallucinate. What we really need is, from a trusted AI point of view, is a layer on top of all these AI model, which is a logical layer, which allows you to verify the results of AI, right? Whether you verify from a much more much more concrete way through rules, or you develop some logic around it, or you verify by having a human input on this as well. These verifications could be very simple verifications as well in the finance world. If I'm talking about some numbers, doing some number crunching, am I getting the right format? Am I getting the right range of the number or not? Because here I can actually hallucinate and can give me a very large number or a small number, right? So am I actually getting in that to some very sensitive or long sort of verification there, where you may have to build some logic there about the structure of the documents to what you are really trying to process. So in short, what exactly this would mean is that for us to really build a trusted AI, on top of AI, we need to have a logical layer of the solution on it, right? That is really what will prevent the hallucination, will give us a kind of guardrails which we need to understand the output of what the models are providing us, and then really put them in a way so that it's consumable by business community in a trustworthy manner. So essentially, in short, we are saying we need a Spock here, and that's exactly what needs to be done to live longer and prosper in the world of the trusted AI on it. So that's one way to have the trusted AI. The second aspect where we were saying that can a business user understand what's really happening, right? This is where the explainability, auditability aspect of it comes. And taking an example over here, if I have a case where, hey, there is an invoice out there, I've overpaid by 100K on that invoice. If I have an RPA solution, what would I do? Those bots would have logs. I would need an RPA developer who understand the code of the bots, who understand what's there in the logs, go through the logs, debug, troubleshoot those issues, and then try to understand what's there, why actually that overpayment was done by going through a tedious process of understanding from the logs itself. So there is a very heavy technical uplift here by those who have written the RPA code, those who understand what's there in the logs, and really try to debug and troubleshoot the situation why we paid 100K on that invoice. When it comes to the agentic AI solutions, right, it's great that they are actually for you a companion to really build that. But when it actually fails in terms of these kinds of issues, overpayment and all, there is no easy way for a business user to really understand that. And that's why they don't trust it also, because now they have to rely on another persona, technical persona, like data scientists, for example, who can then analyze, right, what was the input given, why that output came out, where that data was used, how it was trained, that sort of a thing. So then again, you need someone with a technical background to understand that. Where the trusted AI leads to, if in this kind of solution, is that business users should be able to review the records and understand what went wrong, right? So if I'm running in my example, invoice processing, which has overpaid, I should be able to go through the executions of this and look at every step, not on the logs, not on the models, but on my execution itself, where it says every step, this was the input and this was the output, and business staff would be able to really clearly understand what went wrong just by the execution itself. I'm not looking into tedious logs. I'm not looking into tedious steps of the model generation or trading. I'm really looking at a plain SOP or runs, plain English maybe, where we can really look into what was the input, what was the output of that as well.
Yeah, related to this, Neeraj, another point comes to mind is not just about after the fact type of auditability for
Yeah.
the purposes as mentioned here, but also like many of those that are maybe on this call today might be accountable to certain SLAs.
Yeah.
So I can prove that perhaps I'm in compliance with the SLA given this type of system of record and this auditability.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's really will develop the trust, right? Because you have, again, remember we said that the first obstacle is that we treated this as an alien. This is actually when you start seeing on every step how it is working, you start believing it more, you start trusting it more and becoming more familiar on the operation side as well. So that's the second. The third area, what we need to do is, so we talked about understanding aspect of it. This is more of how human can get involved in providing the input, guiding these. Whether you look at automation, whether you look at processes, whether you look at your workflows, guiding the steps there, right? So let's take some example. Traditionally, in the RPA world, if RPA bot is in doubt. Doubt could be, hey, I don't understand what's there on the screen, right? Or I don't recognize what I'm trying to look at on a certain screen component on this, or I don't understand what input I have received from this API, or it doesn't match to the format which I was expecting on it. What happens? We all know bot would crash, right? Again, you need a RPA developer to look into that, why it crashed, troubleshoot it, go through the debugging steps on it, fix the code, right? So there is no trust which we are building here with business users' perspective because they just don't know what went wrong, right? They're not able to provide the guidance to the bot itself, to their own digital worker in this case. When it comes to AI, yeah, please, Peter.
Yeah, it's related to this, not just about like having business staff involved before, say, the 100K goes away, but also business staff involved. We talked about the glide path, the straight through processing rate. Having the ability for a business SME to continually train that given process, have that original definition just continually expand based on those types of learnings that are applied.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent point. Moving on to AI aspect of it, again, when AI models are really, again, because of the probabilistic nature, they would not say immediately, I don't know. They'll give you the probability, right? So it give you something and essentially would hallucinate in this case, right? So when AI is really in doubt, it would just hallucinate. And that's would not allow any trust building exercise right there, because then user would say, this is not what I expected, or this is not right. Right. And then again, you need some lot of human doesn't get involved into providing the guidance. It can provide, again, the retraining aspect of these models. But that's not the kind of guidance which they're familiar with to provide from a step workflow perspective of it. So what needs to happen in the trusted AI world is that in the trusted AI world, if it's in doubt, it would say, raise the hand, I just don't know. Right? Give me the input, provide me what exactly this is, right? Whether it is, I'm saying, okay, I don't know whether it's an invoice or a receipt, or I don't know what should be the format of date over here, or I don't know how this, what input I'm seeing exactly meant here, or how I should really interpret it, right? And that's where, when the trusted AI solution start speaking the lingo of business users, and try to bring them into picture from a business perspective rather than the technical debugging of models and the logs of bots, that's when they start building the trust with the application about, yeah, you asked me the right question. I know the answer to that question. I can provide you. Next time, go ahead and do the same thing, or ask me if you still don't know that. That's the trust building aspect.
Hey, Neeraj, I know we want to get a few questions in, and we have a few slides remaining. I'm wondering, I think if we could proceed to not necessarily the next slide, but the slide after. I think this is really paramount that we cover this slide here
Yeah.
and dive into this.
Awesome. Go.
Sure.
Yeah.
So think about those key attributes of what we covered, thinking about that auditability and that ability to see what has happened for all time associated with that process for the enterprise. That ability to also be able to report up and report out and potentially report to other customers about what happened in terms of the processing of a given workflow. Having that human in the loop to not only apply continuous learnings to expand the definition of the given workflow over time, but also to guard as a guardrail, again, against given confidence parameters, other parameters, to safeguard your business. Because when you're talking about volumes in the thousands and in the millions, these types of attributes that are not in other AI solutions can lead to very expensive mistakes.
Yeah.
And also as we think about this governance and the governance and the data and that flexibility, and it's also thinking about the appetite for risk that a given customer is wanting to take on for what type of reward.
Exactly. So I'll end with this and we'll get into the question that for customers out there, for vendors out there, for all the AI community out there, the questions which we talked about earlier, you need to ask yourself, ask your vendors, ask your AI leaders about what, is it supported? That's what you need in a trusted AI platform: auditability, some human guidance, some guardrails we talked about, the SPOC, compliance of all kinds of regulations as well, and some way to really govern what we have been talking about as well. So, Joe, do we have any questions before we go any further?
Yeah, we had a good comment from Jeff, and I would like Neeraj, I think you in particular, to respond to it. He's saying that it cannot be data governance. I think the market sellers do a very poor job connotating the difference between a firewall, behind the firewall AI and Gen AI. Everyone thinks that AI is ChatGPT when corporate intelligence is an extension of BI and predictive. And I was just curious, how you'd respond to
Yeah.
that, what AI vendors should do to kind of reconcile
Yeah,
that.
and it's an excellent question, actually. I mean, we all are talking about this because it all started from ChatGPT, right? The generative AI really put this on the map, even though, as I mentioned in the beginning, that AI is nothing new. It's been around in our lives for quite some time. When it comes to the what needs to be done from the data aspect point of view is really the kind of questions which we were asking about this, right? So go deeper into how the data is secure, how that is actually where my PFAI is used, can it be removed from the logs? There are a variety of different things which needs to be considered as well, which all AI vendors have to actually make sure that they support that too. So I like the fact that the question actually is coming from the angle that, hey, there is a journey here, and it's not just the generative AI to really put the map on the map, but there's a lot more which was done even before that, and all AI vendors have to actually support that.
Yeah, I think just the other question we had, which I think is kind of an anti-question, is maybe some of what you talked about, Peter, is what are the automation areas that maybe people should just stick with their incumbent tools, or they might not need AI and go through a trusted AI route? Are there some applications there as well?
This reminds me, Neeraj, of some of the topics we have actually on the next slide, and I think that's related to really where to start here. So, we talked about those high volume, repetitive type of processes that you might be familiar with today. Excellent area to start with. Talking with your IT leadership, getting an understanding of there may be native in product automation capabilities, and that's fine. And there will be a level of optimization that can be attained there. adding, however, AI onto that, you're going to get higher impact, certainly over time. But starting with the applications you already have in-house totally and completely makes sense for return on investment and be able to move fast, as needed. And also, as part of this webinar, we've provided really good questions to ask those vendors and really understand the level, if it's supported, to what extent is that supported. Setting and establishing success criteria and put these in writing. And so as you're talking to different providers, then understanding does it meet or not meet, and to what extent does it meet that. And then finally, the prove it stage, right? So you've said you've done this. Now, this is our key area of emphasis or pain that we want to proceed with and really prove it out. And and so I think this is really our guidance on how to get started in your journey. Anything else you want to add to that, Neeraj?
No, this is great. I think this is a very common theme. We've been talking to our customers as well, so it's awesome. Any more questions?
No, I think we're about out of time, but thank you guys for providing your emails. Is it okay if any of these attendees would reach out to you directly?
Please.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. All right, well, with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And yes, we'll make sure that the invitation is out there, and please be on the lookout for the next in the webinars in this series. But thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Neeraj, for doing your presentation today.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate this.